Hello and welcome to MRD Chatroom. I am Jeliah Boyce, your host for today, and with me, our special guest for this episode is a young, upcoming vocalist, Miss Jeliah Boyce. Welcome, Jeliah.
Thank you for having me.
So good to have you with us today. So let's start, of course, where we should start at the beginning. We want to know a little bit about Jeliah. Who is Jeliah Boyce?
Well, I am a vocalist, as you said, upcoming vocalist. I started singing around the age of 3, or at least that's what my parents told me. I started singing in church. My father is a pastor, so that's where I spent a lot of my earlier years singing or falling in love with music.
What about your hobbies? What do you like to do?
Well, music.
Besides singing, of course.
Yeah. Music does take up a lot of my time, a lot of the hours throughout the day. I do spend singing or rehearsing or practicing. But outside of that, I really do enjoy writing. Specifically, well, I guess that goes hand in hand with music. I really enjoy writing songs and poetry as well as a couple stories. I think that love really came from when I was doing English Lit at secondary school. I had great English teachers.
And which secondary school was this again?
I went to the St. Michael School, the best school in Barbados.
Of course. So let's talk a little bit about, perhaps you have a favorite singer.
That's a bit of a tricky question to answer because I think I admire a lot of singers. So it's hard to choose just one, but if I had to absolutely choose one, it would be Lauryn Hill. I fell in love with Lauryn Hill from the first time that I saw her on my screen in Sister Act 2. I just absolutely fell in love with her voice.
And what about role models, mentors? Is there any person or are there any persons who you think perhaps inspire you as you think about your musical journey?
I think my mentor is my role model, Mrs. Kelly Cadogan from East Point Productions. I met Kelly when I was 13, and I've been with her ever since at East Point. She's really nurtured my talent, and she's been a mentor not only in a musical sense, but throughout my personal life. She always makes sure that my voice is good, yes, but that I'm also okay. And I really do appreciate her for that. So she's my mentor, but she's also my role model.
So let's talk a little bit about that journey. You spoke about your presence with East Point Productions. Can you share with us a little bit of how that journey started and how it helped you through your musical career to where you are now?
When I started East Point, as I said, I was 13. So I am still very young,
of course.
But I was a lot younger at that point in time, and I wasn't sure if music is something that I could see myself pursuing. My parents saw the poster for her classes, and they asked me if I wanted to do it. I said, you know what? Sure, why not? And she completely changed my view on music. I think I come from a family of musicians, so I think naturally, me being who I am, I wanted to go against the grain. Everybody expected me to be a musician. And I was like, no, thank you. Not happening. So I tried to run away, and I ended up falling out of love with music, and I didn't want to sing. And then when I started training with Kelly, it was like I was meeting music for the first time again. And it was such an interesting experience because I didn't think that it was something that I would ever come back to. So getting to work with Kelly and East Point Productions, all the opportunities that she's given to us, all the advice, it has truly changed not only my view on music and my path in the music industry, but also changed who I am and who I see myself as. And I'm just forever thankful for her.
That's awesome. What about your journey then after East Point Productions? Well, I know you're still with East Point Productions now, but after secondary school, what did that journey look like? So you met Kelly, you spent some time with her, you went through secondary school with her, and then you had to make a decision once secondary school was over. So what happened at that point?
Well, Interestingly enough, when I was in my last year of secondary school, the pandemic began, COVID-19 pandemic. And I was still between sixth form or BCC, Barbados Community College. And I really was not feeling CAPE. I'm not a lover of school. I love education, love to be educated, not a fan of school. Never really been. But I knew that if I was going to do something for the next 2 years, it had to be something that I would enjoy. I didn't want to be one of those persons that would be complaining about school, not wanting to go, having to like force myself to get out of bed. So I figured, I've fallen back in love with music. Let me see how far this journey really can go. And I went to BCC and joined the music program there. She did advise me, that would be a good decision to make. And one thing that I do love about her, she always allows me to make the decision. She would give me advice if I asked, for her opinion on something, but she always allows me to make the decision. And I'm happy that I did, because BCC ended up being the 2 years that I really needed to realize that this is what I truly wanted to do. I always loved music growing up. When I was really, really young, I really wanted to be a singer. But as I got older, the passion kind of went away. And then when I started with Kelly, it came back. And when I went to BCC, it was really solidified.
So we're talking about the Barbados Community College and the music program there. And that program is run by Mr. Roger Gittins.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how that program impacted your musical journey.
Well, that program, I also began that during the pandemic. So that was a very interesting experience. We were between online classes and face-to-face classes, not entirely sure what my classmates looked like, because, half of our face is covered with a mask. So it was a really interesting experience, because it was kind of like, well, as soon as I decided I wanted to do music, the whole world is shut down, and, there are all these restrictions, all these things I can't really do. So I didn't get to experience the program in the capacity that it once was. But I don't feel as though I missed out on anything, even though it was during the pandemic, and even though we had to do certain things online. I don't feel as though my experience was any less valuable, especially coming from the journey that I had with that on and off
love relationship
Correct.
with music.
So it was truly an amazing experience. I got to meet some amazing musicians, some of who are now my closest friends, people that are very dear to my heart, and very talented, might I add. And I am so happy that that was the decision that I decided to make during the pandemic.
Okay, and so from there, you moved from the Barbados Community College to the University of the West Indies. Now, where you are now, a member of the first, is that correct? The first?
The second.
The second.
Yes.
The second cohort of students who are participating in the Bachelor's of, let's get it correct, the Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Music.
Yes, well, the second set of music students, but the first set in the Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Music, because the university has two programs, the Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Music, and then Bachelor's of Arts in Music with Education.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about this journey now that you are currently on at the university. What does that look like, and how have you been managing and coping with this new journey?
Well, this journey was a little different from BCC. There were a few things that kind of shocked me. Well, to begin, I started primary school at schools that were very small. So to go from that to then the secondary school was a culture shock in itself. To go from my somewhat small secondary school to BCC, culture shock. And then to go to the University of West Indies, this large campus, another culture shock. And it was a very interesting journey because I didn't want to go to UE, actually. I had other plans that I was very sure were going to go through, were going to happen. And when I was winding down to the end of the program at BCC, I said, I don't think I want to be done with my music journey as yet, musical studies, that is. And I decided, I've heard about the UE program and I heard that they're starting a new Bachelor's of Fine Arts. Let me just see, what it's about. And that's what I did. I think it was a very interesting move because I've always been one to not want to go to UE. I really wanted to go overseas and study, similarly to my older brother. And I think when I wasn't able to do that, I kind of had a negative view going into UE. I really wanted to be that positive person, but I was like, let me just get the degree and get it over with. When I started, it was very much that I'm just here for the piece of paper. And the longer I spent there, the more I realized, it's not as bad as I anticipated it to be. And I ended up becoming what we call the music rep, which is the student representative of the music department, which is also a position that I was not looking or aiming to get. I don't consider myself a people person. So when that happened, I wasn't entirely shocked because it was mentioned to me that, they might think of making me the next music rep, but I was not looking to get the position. So becoming music rep definitely changed my entire experience at UE because I'm able now to be the voice of the students of the department, to talk to our heads of department about any concerns we have, to help plan events or create give back our opportunities for these students, to just be the voice that they need so that our superiors can hear what we actually have to say.
That sounds awesome. So before we get back to that discussion a little bit about the university program, I just want to ask you about the program itself. Do you see the program evolving in terms of impacting young musicians who are looking to further their studies?
Absolutely. I think there are elements of it that I think do need some tweaking or some work. And it is a fairly new program. So, there's some kinks that still have to be worked out as expected with any new program. And I am hoping that it does evolve because I think it could potentially be something that is very good for the younger musicians that are coming up. I am hopeful that the evolution happens sooner rather than later, so that those students who are not going into BCC, that they have a solid option here in Barbados when they want to further their education musically outside of BCC.
And it's great that we have this program now here in Barbados. So as you're saying, some persons may not be able to travel internationally to study, but we do have the possibility of being able to continue musical studies here at the university, and that's a great initiative. Now let's go back to a little bit about you. I'm thinking about your earliest memory of yourself on stage. Can you go back that far? Can you remember your first performance, your first realization that you were on a stage, and what did that feel like as opposed to now when you go on a stage?
My earliest memory of being on a stage is related to a picture. I don't remember the performance entirely, but I remember pieces of it when I look back at a picture that my parents have of me singing at church. And I remember this song I was singing, "We lift our hands in the sanctuary." I remember that very vividly. I remember the dress and everything because I think I was really excited to put it on. And I up to this day, I still get a little nervous before I go on stage. But it has definitely toned down a lot from that first performance. I remember being very scared, very nervous, because I was worried about, one, performing well, and then two, if it will be received well. And I think with age, it has dwindled, but it has not gone away. And I think now that I am truly doing music as a career, there feels like there's even more pressure now before I touch a stage.
So how do you deal with that pressure when you have to go on that stage? Because if our viewers do get an opportunity to see you perform, and we will make sure that they do, there is no sign of that anxiety at all. I've seen you on the stage, and there's no sign of that anxiety. So how do you master that? How do you hide that, if you want to put it that way?
I'm not quite sure how I get it done, but I try to focus in on the performance while I'm on stage. So much so that there are times I come off of stage and I cannot remember what I just did. Can't remember what I just sang, what dance moves I did. But I kind of block out everything. It's like I go into a whole different zone when I'm on the stage physically. And I think that's also why I really like to see recordings afterwards. So I can play it back in my mind and sync the two zones into one. But I try to focus on leaving everything on the stage. Leaving all the nerves on the stage. In fact, leaving all the nerves backstage.
Right.
And leaving the performance in itself on the stage. Giving everything that I have and making sure that it is well received and that I feel as though I've accomplished what I set out to do.
So you're not one of those kind of performers who would go back and scrutinize their videos and look for everything that could have gone, didn't go right.
I won't say no. I think it depends on the performance. There's some that I'm very content with that I don't even think I could have done this differently or I could have done that differently. But I think I also have to remember to give myself grace. I'm only human. And sometimes I'm going to make mistakes. Sometimes I'm not going to sing it exactly how I practiced or exactly how I wanted to. Sometimes I'm not going to move when I wanted to move or how I practiced to move. And I think giving yourself grace as a performer helps you so much. Because beating yourself up about something that has already happened won't change the fact that it already happened.
Correct. Okay. So your musical journey took you through secondary school, Barbados Community College, and now at University of the West Indies. But somewhere in there, you released your first solo, your first single. So talk to us about that journey.
Well, I've always wanted to release music. From the time I was young, I was writing songs. As I said earlier, I come from a musical family. So writing songs was always something that I liked to do because my dad loves to play the piano at home. So melodies just used to come to me with whatever it was he was playing. My friend, Joshua Holder, created this beat and he sent it to me. And I was like, Josh, I'm in love with this. Can I please write something over it? Not thinking of anything to come out of it. I was just writing for fun. And I was like, I really like this song. I sent it back to him. He liked it. I let my parents hear it. They loved it. And I remember my mom said to me, so you're releasing this for summer, right? And I was like, it's May right now. I'm not sure if we could get everything done in time for July. She was like, yeah. And I said, okay. And on June 3rd of that year, 2021, we went to the studio and we recorded and everything else just fell into place so smoothly. It was a very fast process. I didn't expect to release a song. There was nothing happening in my life or my musical journey that made me think, okay, I'm ready to release music. It just kind of happened. And I'm kind of happy that it happened the way that it did, that it wasn't really like ticking things off of a box before I reached that point. Because life can happen so unexpectedly. So I'm happy that I really took the jump and went ahead and released the song.
So what about future songs? Do you have any plans for other releases, as you go on?
Absolutely. Yeah, there are a couple songs that I'm currently working on now behind the scenes. Hoping to bring out one this year, and definitely plenty more in the future.
And how has your writing journey been throughout this whole entire process?
Oh, writing is not easy sometimes. There are days when like I can sit and write 3 songs with ease, and then there are others where it takes me 3 weeks to finish like one sentence. It's a very up and down, unbalanced. Well, I guess it is somewhat balanced journey, and it's definitely something that I had to get used to. I used to get really frustrated when I couldn't finish a song. But as I said earlier, I had to give myself grace. I realized, I'm only human. My brain can only come up with so many words that rhyme at a time. And kind of just sit down and let the words come to me when they do.
Let's talk a little bit about your faith. You did mention earlier that your father is a pastor. And how has that played a role in your whole musical journey?
I think it has definitely made me a little bit more aware of the content that I decide to sing. Because I have met persons who are other PKs or,
And PKs being
pastors' kids,
or
yes.
pastors' kids, okay.
Other pastors' kids or PKs, persons that minister in church or play in church, sing in church, any form of ministry really, that are always willing and open to singing or doing anything. And I think having a father as a pastor instead of just somebody who's a church member has made me a lot more aware of it, not only because of who he is as a person, but also because there are a lot of eyes on me in the church. Because, my dad is the pastor, so everybody's looking to see what the pastor's daughter is going to do. Especially because I am not a gospel artist. That comes with a lot more eyes and a lot more opinions.
How do you manage that?
It might sound horrible, but I just try not to care. Because at the end of the day, I know that my relationship with God is not about them. It's between me and him.
Right.
And if I allow what they think or what they have to say to dictate how I feel about my faith, then what am I really doing? I'm allowing them to live my life for me or make the decisions that affect my life for me. And it's my life. So I feel as though God wouldn't have given me the power of choice if he didn't believe that I would probably at some point do something correct.
That's correct. Okay, so let's talk about some of your achievements. I know that you were able to perform at the first ever Republic Day in Barbados in front of Rihanna. And can you talk us through what that experience was like?
Ooh, that was a little nerve-wracking.
I can imagine.
Yeah, as a singer, you always want to, not only as a singer, as a performer in general, any art form, you always want to perform well. But I think it's even more pressure when you have one of the biggest artists in the world sitting down in the front row watching you. It's like, oh gosh, don't crack, don't forget the words, just breathe. It's going to be okay. Like, she's just a human being. It's going to be fine. And when I first began, I was really nervous, but then I recognized, this is what I do for a living. And I'm getting to display that. I'm getting to show that to her. So yes, be concerned about making sure that I perform well, but don't let it consume me to a point where I'm like completely absent from the stage.
And you spoke about making a living out of singing. And persons sometimes suggest that here in Barbados, that's not possible to make a living out of music. They say, is that all you're going to do? And how would you respond to something like that?
Well, I make a living for the lifestyle that I currently live under my parents' roof. As I said, I'm only 20. So the living that I make is sustainable for the lifestyle that I live. However, it is not easy for all musicians to be full-time musicians because there are not always opportunities available to make a proper sustainable living. There are persons that are able to do it, that get it done, absolutely. But I don't think that is a case right now where our music industry is at a point where all of the musicians across the board can do music full time, like simply just music. No extra side jobs, like purely music. I don't think that our music industry is at a place where that can happen. It would be a beautiful thing if musicians could just pursue music. But at the same time, I think there are pros and cons. And I think it's good that there are musicians who also happen to be teachers, because they get to nurture that spark in their students that want to become musicians. It's good because you also get to explore other fields. There's some musicians that might be working in tourism, and that might open up even more doors for them. There are musicians that work in marketing, that work in accounting. It's so vast. And I think one of the pros is that it shows that musicians are also very versatile people, that we're not just restricted to our instruments. And I think that is one of the most beautiful pros about it. Of course, there are the cons, persons that aren't able to make enough off of simply playing an instrument or singing. But there are beautiful elements to being able to do things outside of music solely.
One of them being able to call your own time.
Yes.
So we have this dilemma for musicians, do I have a full-time music life? Do I do a part-time music life? And as you're saying, it's kind of a struggle for some persons here.
Yeah.
But where do you see yourself in that whole struggle after you're finished university? Is music something that you want to do full-time? Are you going to be seeing it as a part-time job? What are you looking at?
I wanted to be a full-time musician. And I think as I got exposed to other elements of the music industry, I realized, yes, I do love performing, I do love singing, but that's not all that I realized that I love. I really love teaching, especially children. I really enjoy working with children. Something which East Point Productions allowed me the opportunity to do in 2022. And I also realized that I really love event planning. Those are the three things that I realized truly bring me joy. Performing in any aspect, whether that is singing on a live stage, session work, any background vocals, lead, anything regarding singing, teaching, and event planning. Those are the things that I realized really do bring me joy. So if I could create a whole other category, like a 3/4 time musician, does that make sense?
That would work for you.
Correct.
You spoke about teaching with East Point, and could you tell us a little bit about that experience? How did that feel for you, being able to share your knowledge with younger persons, and how do you see that that whole teaching being a part of what you think you can do?
I think that showed me that I'm not probably built to teach in the school system. But I did enjoy doing those private classes with the children. They made my days so enjoyable. They were so willing to learn. And they really showed me that teaching is something that I could look into, not in a school system, but definitely something privately. Correct.
And I know you also would have done some kind of certification in vocal training online. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience?
The certification did happen online because of COVID, but usually it does happen over at Baldwin University. And it really opened up my eyes further to teaching. I'd never realized, it gave me a wider scope, I should say, of all the different ways you could teach someone to sing. It was truly a very enjoyable experience. And I think it allowed me to take some of those elements and implement them in my classes, even though they were with children. It definitely boosted my creativity in trying to figure out ways to teach them certain concepts that for older persons, I can just explain it as it is. It's probably easy for them to grasp. But with children, no. When you're with children, it's a little different. You have to figure out what their learning style is, how they are going to interact with the information, how they're going to remember it, finding ways to help them to remember the things. So that certification allowed me to gain the knowledge, but then I had to take it and figure out how to apply it to the situation I was in.
Awesome. And you would also have done some kind of certification as well in your performance with East Point Productions. Can you walk us through that as well?
Yes, I did the LCME, London College of Music, exams at the grade 6 level.
Okay, and your result at the grade 6 level? Because I'm proud of you because it's a little astounding when you think about it.
Yes, I got a distinction at 100%.
At 100%. That's an achievement in itself.
It is.
Of course, though, I don't think that you think that that's enough. You just, sit down and say, I've arrived.
Yeah, it's
so,
not.
So tell us how, even though you've reached that level with that performance exam, you received a 100% grade, but still seeing that there's more to do, there's more to learn, there's more to grow.
In the music industry, you can have all the accolades, all the degrees, but that does not necessarily always mean that you can deliver. And doing that exam, for me, that was a sign to continue music. And yes, to continue music, but to continue growing, continue learning. And I don't think that you ever reach an age where you can stop learning something new. The world is always changing. There's something new happening every single day. And you can have all the degrees in the world. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily able to deliver what is needed. Everybody fits into a different box or a different section in the music industry, because I hate to put us in boxes. But that does not always mean that we can operate in every single sector. And gaining that distinction, yes, it's a fantastic achievement and I'm very grateful for it. However, that for me was not enough necessarily. It was a stepping stone. And that's what I look at it as. I don't look at it as if it is not an achievement, because it absolutely is a great one at that. But it is definitely a stepping stone.
So let's wrap up with a couple questions that I think our viewers might be very much interested in learning more about you as a performer. And one of those questions would be, if you had to open for an international artist, any, who would it be and why?
I would open for Stevie Wonder.
The great Stevie Wonder.
The great Stevie Wonder. I grew up on his music. My dad is a big Stevie Wonder fan. He played a lot of Stevie Wonder and a lot of Michael Jackson growing up, in between the gospel songs, of course.
So Stevie Wonder. Do you think that people misunderstand you?
I think there are some that do. People create their own assumptions of who I am based on, well, I guess you say don't judge a book by its cover, but everybody judges a book by its cover. They see me on the stage, and then they hear I'm a pastor's daughter, and it's like, so why are you not singing gospel music on the stage? So people kind of made their own assumptions, either based on what they see or what they hear. So I think people absolutely misunderstand me. Yeah.
But that doesn't faze you in the least.
It doesn't. It does not, because I know who I am at my core, and I know what I believe. I know what I am content with. I know what I can deliver. And I try my best not to allow what people's opinion of me is to consume me, or to allow that to stop me from pursuing what I believe it is I've been put on the earth to do.
So, what does the future hold for Jeliah Boyce?
I would love to know, actually.
If I can find out, I'll tell you.
Please. I would really love to release, as I said earlier, a couple more songs. I'd really love to release an album at some point in my career. As for the genre, I have not a clue in the
No
slightest.
favorite type of genre at all?
I love a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a mixed album.
Possibly. We'll see. Maybe in the next 5 years I'll have an answer for you about that.
Well, I want to say a very special thank you for joining us today on MRD Chatroom.
Thank you for having
me. We were
me.
glad to have you today. And we look forward to hearing great things about Jeliah Boyce in the future. We wish you every success as you continue your musical journey.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us today on MRD Chatroom. Be sure to join our next episode when we again interview another Barbadian and find out about their journey. Thanks for joining us.